Welcome back to another episode of Breaking the Lens of Bias. My name is Kat Killian. Happy to be here with you today on a beginning to snow day kind of in Chicago. And so I just want to wish all of you happy holidays, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, and any other holidays you may celebrate during this time. Um, Today, I'd like to talk about some of the events of the week. It's been a very, very eventful week, and with things happening, how the media is starting to react to those things, and various pundits starting to react to the happenings of this week. The first big thing has been the final hearing of the January 6th committee, in which they laid out all of their evidence and uh, distributed a preliminary report. The final report should be coming, and it's supposed to be over 1,000 pages, I think, um, concerning that and all the evidence that was presented at the various hearings and depositions and things that were taken. Some very interesting things that kind of came out of it. The biggest one was that there will be referrals for criminal charges against former President Trump and some of his enablers or allies, depending on how you want to uh, view them. And again, that might be with bias. Hmm. Uh, so anyway, looking at those things, a lot of the talk from the right wing has been basically it's a witch hunt, it's a witch hunt, it's a witch hunt. One of the things that Trump himself said was double jeopardy, um, because he was acquitted in the impeachment by the Senate. And things to kind of notice about that is, of course, people are going to be saying those things depending on what side of the the aisle you fall on. Uh, trying to say the things to deflect from facts. And so I would encourage anyone who's truly interested in uh, looking at the situation and looking at the evidence of what has happened, rather than the explanation of the evidence, to make a judgment on that. That's the problem, is sometimes if we have a bias and we're looking at the explanation of evidence in order to confirm our own bias, uh, we'll look for those things that say that rather than looking at the direct evidence itself. One of the things to me that was most disturbing was the evidence, and again, I'll have to look at it more closely to see exactly what the evidence was and who were the players that were involved, and that should be in the final report, was that they were trying to influence people to uh, say they forgot, they don't recall in their testimony. And so, so in doing that, as many people refused subpoenas by the committee and refused to testify under oath as to what they witnessed and what they may have participated in, uh, it's very disturbing. I always kind of say, if somebody's hiding something or trying to prevent the truth from being coming out, is there something there? Does it pass the smell test? Um, and so I'm that's why I'm saying is look at the evidence itself rather than what is being said. Just as we could say the investigation into Benghazi and the servers that Hillary Clinton used, and Hillary Clinton's role in Benghazi, and all that what happened, should have been investigated, and they were. And people respected the subpoenas and testified under oath regarding that. In order for a democracy to function, people have to be honest and open as to their roles and things. And generally, a kid who stole from the cookie jar is going to say, "No, I didn't." because they don't want to get caught. They don't want to admit that. And that's kind of human nature. And so when people are doing that, you often have to say, what is the evidence telling me? Well, if there's missing cookies and there's two adults in the house and mama didn't take it and daddy didn't take it, or other mama or other daddy, um, or other adult, grandma, grandpa, whatever, and the kid's the only other one, the kid probably took the cookie. The evidence leads to that. The crumbs on the kid's face may lead to that, or the chocolate chip stains may lead to that. Where is the evidence leading? And so by concentrating on that evidence and educating ourselves, we can break our own bias as to what we might think, whether we lean Republican or lean Democrat, whether we are listening to the pundits and believing them. The point is look at the facts and make your own decision as to what's going on. And that actually kind of leads to the second big event of this week, which is the release of Trump's tax returns to the Ways and Means Committee in the House. And it's interesting. It's being told again, that it's an erosion of freedom, that we shouldn't be releasing taxes of a private citizen. And I would like to say, Trump still says he's lawfully the president, so how can he be both a private citizen and the president of the United States at the same time? But that's another story. Um, the reason behind that was to see if the IRS was complying with the law as it has been established um, concerning the examination of the income tax records of presidents and vice presidents in their role. And so, up until Trump took office, and he did promise that he would release his tax returns. It was being said that all other presidents since Nixon, basically in the modern era, have released their tax returns to the public, meaning to the House of Representatives. And so, by Trump not doing that, the question is, what is there to hide? But also, in doing that, that assures compliance with the IRS rules that these tax returns are examined. It is a law. And I believe my understanding of it is that the truth behind that law is to make sure that there is not undue influence being peddled in order to get curry political favor. I think that's a huge reason for that. And so, upon initial look of that, what was really found, which was disturbing, and I won't even go into, I'm not a tax lawyer, not a member of the IRS, so I have, nothing to say, and I have not looked at what has been released because it is my understanding that it has not been released yet to the Greater House. It's just been in the Ways and Means Committee. But what was discovered, or has been reported, has been discovered that the IRS did not comply with the regulations as stated out about that until the House started looking into whether or not that was being done. So that leads me, why did that happen? So if former President Trump was interested in keeping his tax returns secret, the IRS falls under the Department of the Treasury, which is the Treasury Secretary of the Treasury is a cabinet department. So it basically reports to the president. It's taking away the power of Congress to have that oversight. That's kind of the branches of the republic that we have. So it's not a witch hunt. Look at the reasons why it was being done and look at the failures of what happened. And so then, therefore, Congress can go and it can adjust the law to make sure that compliance does happen for those reasons, to preserve our democracy so that no one person or party can basically take over. Um, the whole point in democracy is to have that balance, and our founding fathers actually did a good job of that. But laws need tweaking. Things changed when our republic was founded. There was no income tax on individuals at the time, so obviously that has changed, and so we need to address laws to that relating to people in power. Um, and some of the calls are saying, well, now private citizens' tax returns will be public, and the Supreme Court and Congress people and all that kind of stuff. And again, what is the reason for it? And what is that? And I'm going to be honest about here, the bias. I know that there's certain things. When somebody promises that they'll do something, when they promise that they will adhere to a norm that has been in place for over 50 years, and then they don't, um, people will question that. And so there's got to be an innate curiosity. But as far as Congress goes and the Ways and Means Committee, this is to make sure we are doing policy. If this other stuff comes out as a result of that, it's human nature wanting to see, well, if he refused to do it after he promised, what does he have to hide? Um, and so uh, that's all I'm leading it. Again, don't lean into your bias. Don't lean into what the pundits are saying. Look at the evidence itself. Look at the reasoning behind. Look at what the Ways and Means Committee actually does and the purpose of wanting to access these tax records and having the legal right, as declared by the Supreme Court, to have access to those tax records. Uh, and the whole idea of hiding things brings me into the third uh, news story of the week, and it's certainly not as big as others, and it's also behind President Zelensky's visit to the White House and to address Congress. But it is something that is of significance, and it kind of ties into the other things. Some of you may or may not be aware of the growing interest in the resume of George Santos, who was elected to the 3rd Congressional District in the state of New York. George Santos is a Republican, one of the people who was elected um, that caused the House to swing to the Republicans. Um, and that in and of itself is something that is normal and happens within our election cycles. What's interesting about the George Santos and his thing is that his resume and the things that he says about his private life are basically people are investigating and proving lies. Some of the things that he's done, and let me bring up um, uh, my notes here on him, is that he says he was openly gay and out for 10 years, a proud gay Republican, as he says. And interestingly enough, he first ran for office in 2020 and lost. But just 12 days before he filed his paperwork for that election, he had a divorce from a woman. Now, I'm not saying that people cannot come out as gay um, later in life or at any point in time in life. I'm not taking issue with that at all. If someone says they are, they are. Um, However, saying that he's been out for 10 years and he was married to a woman is like, huh? Makes you question things. But there are some other things that he claimed that he attended. I believe it was New York University and Baruch College. Um, Both of those institutions have claimed he has never attended there. So, I'm open to further investigation on this subject, but I'm likely, having had worked at a university, I'm likely to believe the records of the college. And why would two say the same thing? Also, he claimed to have worked for Citigroup and Goldman Sachs, uh, and both of those claim that he has not worked there. Again, usually they do not comment. Employers do not comment on uh, the facts of the employees thing beyond confirming yes they've worked there or no they didn't work there. See, there are other things. It says here he still faces unresolved legal troubles in Brazil. Not quite sure what that is about. Um, he claims to have a nonprofit, and the IRS has no record of that nonprofit. Other past business ventures appear flimsy, as this news article says, and even his address was called into question. Um, but the something came out today that was kind of interesting. He's now saying that his grandparents were involved in the Holocaust, uh, and interestingly enough, records have shown when they've gone back to genealogy records, and the Jewish people have actually done this and looked into it, um, because it's very important part of the the Holocaust story is very important part of the the Jewish people's narrative, and the hardships that they've had to endure uh, as a result of that and coming out of that. That they have access to these records, and they found that both of his grandparents were born in Brazil, that they did not flee Nazi Germany to go to Brazil. So there's a lot of questions that are being done. And now there are calls for him to resign ahead of time. Um, they cannot necessarily force him to resign ahead of time. However, one of the things that the pundits are saying is most likely is that he will be sworn in. So they're calling on him to resign before he has been sworn in, just because of this scandal. But if he's sworn in, he likely will face an ethics investigation and being done. Going through that process, and what that all means if found that he has made these egregious statements concerning his resume. And again, this is a situation. Is it a witch hunt? I think not. I think people who are holding positions of power in our political system should be held accountable. That lies should be held accountable. And these all three of these stories have that theme through that. What are the lies that are being told, or what is being hidden from the public, enabling them to make a certain rational decision uh, about somebody, rather than tapping into uh, feelings and emotions. And that's where our biases tend to lie, is in the feelings and emotions about things. And I think I'm going to talk about a little bit more about that next week, unless something big comes up. But if we are tapped into our feelings and emotions, and we neglect to do the work to investigate, to feel, something's not quite right there, um, and then we actually take and we look at the facts and we look at the evidence, um, and not necessarily circumstantial evidence, but we look at hard evidence as what's done. So when the colleges that he claims to have attended say no, he did not attend that, when the workplaces that he has said he has worked at claim that he never worked there, believe that. There's not a grand conspiracy going on to prevent certain people from accessing certain things. Life is not a Robert Ludlum novel where everybody is out to get anyone. It is not the Da Vinci Code. Um, Usually, when there are open inquiry, when we have a free press, when we have laws that allow us to investigate things and let the evidence lead where it leads us, when we have subpoenas and we people should comply with those subpoenas. What does that mean? Be it a subpoena from a court or be it from a subpoena from a um, Congress or we should be responding to those, and we should expect our leaders and the people in society to be responding to them in order to uncover the facts and the evidence of what is going on so that reasonable decisions can be made, not just I am persecuted because you don't believe me. um, Again, that goes back to the child with the cookie. Are we persecuting the child? No, we just want to teach them accountability for what they've done. And I think all of these stories that I touched on today and about the biases, and actually warning you about the biases that are coming out now in the commentaries concerning these stories, is that we hold back and we look at the evidence and we hold people accountable in our system. That was a lot today, but I thank you for tuning in and for listening to Breaking the Lens of Bias. And I hope to see you next time. Happy holidays, everyone. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah.